Well, first off, I have excellent news for you. I talked to somebody here in the European Parliament on the left, and they explained to me that woke does not exist.
Oh.
So I think we can all go home now.
Yeah, call it a day.
Or do you have other thoughts on this matter?
No.
What do we reply to people who insist on saying that woke does not exist?
I mean, it flies in the face of our experience. They tell us that the experience of our eyes, ears are not true. Truly, woke exists. Woke can be described. They have a long history in the academic literature. The technical term is critical consciousness. It means having been awakened to the fact that society is written through with systemic oppression and mechanisms for domesticating people and making them accept the oppression, and that you have to become an activist. You have to wake up and become an activist to fight and change this. You become a change agent, they call it. So woke certainly exists. It's certainly a major phenomenon. It means analyzing the world through critical consciousness, if we want to be technical. Anybody can go look up those terms, critical consciousness. They'll find 50 years of literature proving it.
Could I summarize by saying that critical consciousness means that you see the world through the lens of oppressor and oppressed, basically?
That's right.
Yeah.
In everything.
In everything.
So everything. So critical consciousness means you see why the government has, racism or oppression built in it, but you see why the corporations, but you see why water and air and trees and the park and food.
And this oppressor is always the same persona. This oppressor is always the white, heterosexual, normal male.
It's anybody that subscribes to Western civilization and its values, which they locate in the white, heterosexual male.
Okay, yeah, that's a better way of putting it, absolutely. About CRT, Trump made an executive order that did not allow federal agencies to contract with critical race theory in order to, and this was actually one of the first laws that Joe Biden, upon taking office, the first day, he abolished this law, so it was very high on the priority list of this administration. What has been the consequence of that, and could you tell us something more about this CRT abolishment?
Yeah, well, the consequence has been very clear. The Biden administration in the United States has pushed equity into everything. He just wrote his own executive order a few weeks ago saying that everything in the federal apparatus would be based off of the principle of equity and to achieve equity. They don't define equity clearly as an administered economy where shares are adjusted to make citizens equal, in other words, socialism. But the consequences have been that across the board we're having more and more problems because hiring for equity or pushing for equity spends resources. It hires people for jobs that they don't necessarily have qualifications for so they can meet quotas. And these problems are starting to manifest. I hear from people that blow whistles from different government agencies and industry saying, well, we're being forced to do this, it's causing problems, and the problems will continue to expand.
Isn't it causing simultaneously problems to the administration? Because if I understand correctly, then the popularity of the administration is sliding fast, and I assume that this attitude towards the woke ideology has something to do with it. People seem to be getting fed up with this.
Yes.
Why does this administration, especially Joe Biden, insist on going all the way, and he seems to be in it all the way, whatever the consequences?
There are a few reasons. One is that they actually are completely committed to it. They think that as experts, or for whatever their real motivations might be besides that, they know better than everybody. We hear that all the time. Listen to experts, listen to experts. They handpick the experts. And then the experts say what they want them to say, and if you don't, you're not an expert, right? And so this creates a system of corruption that they can benefit from, but they have to be all in on it besides that because it's very unpopular. Yes. And so if they come out and say, we made a mistake, this was bad, then they have to confess to having made a mistake on this scale. And so in some sense, to use a, I guess, European expression, they've crossed the Rubicon. They know they've crossed the Rubicon. And they can't go back on it. So they can only go forward, they can only push the agenda, but you're absolutely correct. The American people are, by and large, abandoning woke. We're a bit ahead of Europe in all regards in this movement.
Yeah, it's interesting to see for us because from our perspective, we can see what's coming, and it's helping also to build our resistance of this ideology, because we can see what works in the States. We see Ron DeSantis, we see Vivek Ramaswamy now, and we can actually, I hope that it means that we can also react more efficiently and more quickly because of the experience that we have in the States.
That's why I'm happy to be in Brussels, to give you some of that experience. You know, there are certain things they say. What are your pronouns? And then you don't know what to do, and you feel like you have to do something. But through experience, we figured out what to do.
Yeah.
I would say, if you ask me my pronouns, go ahead, ask me my pronouns.
What are your pronouns, James?
I'm a man.
Yes. So?
So I'm a man. And so I refuse to answer the question.
Yes.
And you can't assume my pronouns because that's against the rules.
Yeah.
So now you're in a bind. And so I just continue to assert I'm a man, which is pulling people back to reality and pulling them back to truth instead of the word games.
Yes.
And by refusing to participate, it breaks that system.
I have one last question, because I know that you're very into education. It's a very important field of study for you. And your friend Peter Boghossian, I was listening to a podcast with him, and he mentioned somewhere that he would not send his children to college, what we call university, anymore, because he says it's better not to learn anything or to learn something completely different than to learn things which are patently false. What's your attitude towards this, people who start refusing sending their children to college or to university?
I mean, this is a double-edged sword.
Yes.
You are willfully excluding yourself from certain levels of society by refusing to go.
Yeah.
And so I have a slightly different answer to him than that. And I do share his concerns, and I do agree that it's better to not be subjected to the woke teaching than it is in general. But I know many conservative people who are in college or have gone to college, and they have good minds, they're sharp,
Yes.
and what they're getting is not only the education and the degree and the credentials, they're also getting a real-time training and knowing how to deal with it in a professional environment. And if the young person that's thinking of college is suited to that, if their temperament and their mind is suited to that, they should go. They should go and get the credentials, and they should get first-hand experience. But if they're not, it's probably better to do something else. And I find, surprisingly, I talk to people in industry, and they tell me again and again, I hear this, if I get applications, if it says high school only, it goes on the top. If it says college, it goes underneath. If it says Ivy League, it goes in the trash.
That's amazing.
That's because they say
That's amazing. It used to be the reverse.
Because the woke, you become a liability to your company.
Yeah.
They say that you probably won't do any good work. You probably won't want to work, and then you're likely to cause a problem and cause a ruckus in the office.
I have the same when I'm investing. When I see companies who are actively woke, I try to avoid the shares because it means they're not focused on the bottom line.
The truth is that people will avoid corruption when they realize it's corrupt, and this is a corruption of knowledge. This is a corruption of expertise. And
one last thing before I let you go: how strong was this? Some people said that with the Silicon Valley Bank, the collapse, that the fact that it was so woke actually played a role in the collapse of this bank. What's your comment on that?
So I don't know the internal details, so I don't want to speak over my knowledge. But the truth is that we do know that they were committed very openly to the ESG. When the S is woke, the S stands for social or social justice. So the S in ESG is woke, and so we know that they're committed to it. We know that their risk management team didn't exist and was headed up by their diversity manager, and so this was a problem. But we also, much more importantly, as far as how do you tell the truth in a world like today where the official line may not be quite true, the reaction after the fact, some people started to comment and point these facts out that I've just stated, and the reaction from the media was, oh no, it was not the woke. It was anything but woke.
Exactly.
ESG had nothing to do with it, which tells me it might have played at least significant role.
A more significant role than we first assumed.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Okay.